Hi there, this is Jeanette Comerford for Whimsy Stamps, and today's card is a wedding card using one of the new images from the May release. This is Josie Belle Bride, and I use the May Card Kit for the supplies, the papers, and all the embellishments. So this card truly was a card that sort of evolved while I was making it. My original idea wasn't looking the way I wanted it to look, and so I'm going to take you through sort of all the changes I made and show you that you don't always have to end up with exactly what you envisioned. So I am stamping the image with a London Fog Memento ink, which is a slightly lighter color than the tuxedo black that I usually use. I wanted it to be a little bit softer. And I am just coloring in the face. You'll see the Copic markers listed below, using a very light touch because I want it to be very soft and pretty. And there's not a whole lot of skin showing, so it's just really this little area that I'm doing. And as we go through the video, you're going to notice that I'll be coloring the hair, and then you'll see that I'm using an image that the hair is not colored, and that's simply because I was changing what I was doing, or I wasn't satisfied with the results, and that's fine. And I sort of wanted to include that in this video so that you know that not everything that I do works out exactly the way I planned, and there's always a way to sort of salvage things. So here's the hair. I'm keeping it pretty soft with shades of E50 and 51. I'm letting them dry in between adding the colors so that they don't blend out, so that you really get the illusion of strands of hair. So I really wanted to accentuate the features. Because I stamped it with quite a light ink, they don't really stand out. And so you're going to see here I'm adding a little bit of a white highlight with a gel pen. Then I'm coloring in the iris with the Prismacolor pencil. And this is why I redid it. This is the second time I'm doing it. I then added, here you can see I'm adding a Prismacolor pencil in cool gray just to line the outline of her eyes and her eyelashes. But here you can see what I originally did, and that was using a Copic multiliner, and it was too dark and too black and too harsh, and so that's why I redid it. So now we're back to coloring the dress. I started off using my blender pen, sort of added all that blender to the areas I wanted to add shading, and then I added a very light blue violet color and a gray color, and I'm adding the shadows below and above those sort of ribbon bands with the roses. So that's where I want my shading to be. So you can see me sort of just working it out. I want to keep it nice and soft. And you'll see I worked on the dress and then her glove, the upper part of her dress, and the veil. So I did all of that in the same way, just adding very light colors and blending it with my blender pen. So there's other things I did after this step, but I am going to share that with you a little later on in the video so you can see the sort of different things I had tried out and what I ended up finally using. So here I took a piece of vellum. This is also from the kit. All the papers are from the kit, and I am stamping it with some Versamark, and I am just going to sprinkle some embossing powder on top of that. I also used that sort of little sack, the anti-static tool, so that I wouldn't get any stray powder. And now I'm just heating it up with my heat gun. and I'm going to cut out the vellum. I'm going to cut out the dress part or the skirt part of her dress as well as the veil. I'm adding some white Prismacolor pencil to the centers of the roses just to differentiate them a little bit from the rest of the vellum. And now you can see what I'm doing here. I cut out the second version of the coloration, just the bodice and her arm. And now these are all the different options I had. I had stamped it on pattern paper. I had stamped it a second time and colored the roses pink. And I ended up not liking those at all. So I really just ended up using the shaded background of the dress with the vellum over on top. Here is some of the shimmer silver paper from the May Card Kit. I'm cutting it with a frame die as well as this heart circle die from the kit. And this is paper from the kit too. It is a beautiful floral embossed paper, so I'm just sort of making sure I'm cutting it to the right size, using the frame as a reference. I have my card base here. Again, the cardstock is from the card kit. I've made an A2 size card. I'm going to add tape to the frame. And then it was easier just to take the background to the frame. And then this paper really, I couldn't get the glue to sort of stick on it, so I ended up pulling out my Score Pal tape, which is a pretty heavy duty adhesive. Just put 3 strips of that. And then I had to really end up burnishing it onto the paper so that it would stick. Once it stuck, it was there for good, but it was a little bit more finessing to get it to work. I'm going to add that to my card. So again, I'm second guessing myself, just making sure I know what I want to do. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to put that to sort of pink rose background. In the end, I decided not to. I think I checked one more time. I was really indecisive when I was making this card. So now I'm going to take my Zig glue pen and I am going to add the glue sort of at the top and then on top of all the flowers. And then I will put the vellum skirt on. I'll put that block on so that it has some pressure when it's drying. And with the veil I did the same thing. I sort of glued it up at the top of the crown of her head and on the rose. Now I'm going to glue the torso on top. Just make sure everything is aligned. For her bouquet, I am just taking a Copic marker and coloring all the sort of greenery. And then I'll put her onto the card with some Score Pal tape. Again, because that paper is embossed, you have to use something pretty strong. And I was wondering if I was going to move the sentiment, that circle that I cut. In the end, I decided to put her at the bottom. Now this is Flower Soft. This was super popular a few years ago, and I've linked where to get it below this video. So I'm just adding some Zig glue, and it's sort of like a powdery, I don't know. It just adds a lot of texture. It's really pretty, and this card really ended up being a lot about texture. So I just keep gluing it and pressing it down. And then it was a little stark, so I had another bottle of the Flower Soft, so just added a little bit of pink there. Here at the sentiment, you can see I cut it in half. I'm using this Congratulations sentiment from the May Card Kit, and I'm going to heat emboss that. and I ended up pulling up the frame a little bit so that I could actually get the sentiment tucked underneath. So I kind of liked how that looked. It didn't overwhelm the card. And then these beautiful rhinestones are also from the kit, so I just scattered a couple of sizes onto the card, and I used the Zig glue pen again to glue them down. You'll see that in a minute. And I had to really press and hold them down so that they would stay put. And then the last thing I ended up doing was taking a Wink of Stella clear pen, and I put that all over the veil and then across these bands on her dress. So that's my card completed. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope it inspires you to make some wedding cards from the card kit on your own. A full list of supplies and links can be found below this video on YouTube or my blog. Thanks for watching.